Go ahead, I'm good. I can't keep up with them.
Oh, couple.
Oh, recycling move more than 2 days a week, or is that a month?
It's currently once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. What about move? I can't.
I think that's
Their
more.
writing's as bad as mine. I think, is this your answer? Volume doesn't show the frequency warranty change? Is that what it is?
That's correct. The volume of recycling at residential is not there today, but we do have 5 facilities, 5 dumpsters, City Hall, library, golf center, community center, and next to the gas pump at Public Works going into the sportsplex.
Multiple questions about the Canal Road sidewalk, and I know there's a tremendous amount of interest, so please don't think that we don't have that somewhere to be looked at. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It was, in regards to the new school, what is going to be the impact of tenured teachers through the county transitioning into a city school system? There is no impact to tenure. The Students First Act protects that. So whether they are absorbed by the city school system or remain in the county school system, their tenure rights are not affected. What is the timeline or date set for negotiations with Gulf Shores School System? Right now, our board has approved, in things like this, you bring on experts. So along with our law firm, we have brought on a law firm that has worked with several school split decisions and negotiations. We're very excited about that firm that we'll be working with. The timeline for negotiations, it really, again, we can't really start in negotiations as a county system until a board is in place for the city school system of Gulf Shores. Even though they'll be getting a superintendent, negotiations really run through a school board, because the school board is the ones who basically have the ultimate decision up or down on things. A superintendent is there to work with those negotiations, like I will be with the Baldwin County Schools, but really we can't do anything until they get a school board.
Okay. Any more? All right. Louder Place drainage issues. We've addressed several in Louder Place. We think we've made some progress in a lot of places. There's other places that we need to pay attention to. Kit?
Yes, we did some improvements on Cobia. We were having some flooding on Cobia. We redid the roadway there, Tarpon Lane there at the south end of Yellowfin. We've spent a considerable amount of money reworking the pavement in that location and have virtually eliminated the flooding issues in that location.
24-hour healthcare facility. We're doing everything we can to make that happen, and sooner rather than later. We are looking at partnering in some way with South Baldwin and Southern Rapid Care to at least expand hours. It seems like every time I have an 11-year-old emergency, it's after midnight. So I think everybody can relate. So we wish and hope that we can work with them to expand those hours in some way. And we're looking at other options. To the Beach Express rep, why not allow Orange Beach residents to go through free? That was something that was being negotiated, and they were entertaining that possibility, but we just never got to it's a matter of dollars. They're a for-profit company, and I don't think they felt like they could get to where they needed to be on the profit side to allow our residents to go through free. But now you'll have some way you can go free. With the expansion of the Foley Beach Express, well, he's already answered. There will be Freedom Pass lanes on the Foley Beach Express. Is that everything?
No, we've got some others. Let me run through these real quick.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for a pump station in Terry Cove Harbor? There are currently drainage issues along there and Marina Road. So Kit, you and Gary can continue to work on that one.
So I think you've heard there's not been a neighborhood that has not asked about a drainage issue. So it is citywide. Everyone has them. We acknowledge it. We don't deny it. It's like, how do you fix it? Some places are essentially like New Orleans, short of a 1 million gallon an hour pump. It's almost impossible to deal with a strong tidal surge, strong south wind backing the water up inside the pass and any rain event that goes with it. You're just in a mess when those things come together, and that seems to happen a good bit. A lot of times more in the spring and the winter than in the summer. Kit.
Yes, one of the main problems at Terry Cove Harbor is that in the low areas, they drain into a conservation area that's a protected area. It's jurisdictional wetlands. The city has looked into lowering those pipes on the east side that would lower the normal pool elevation in that conservation area, but the Army Corps of Engineers will not allow those pipes to be lowered. And unfortunately, these houses that are low, that are sitting in that conservation area, they drain into that conservation area. The best thing that Terry Cove Harbor can do is they have paid money to cut and clear behind the houses as a fire break. That was very helpful in helping the drainage situation, but unless and until the Corps would allow us to lower those pipes, it's going to be a difficult situation to change the normal pool. And of course, like you said, when we have a surge, no amount of pump or lowering of pipes can help that situation. Marina Road, that's exactly the situation. Marina Road is low. The elevations are so close to sea level that there's actually nothing that can be done when you don't have any sort of fall to the sea level elevation.
If you look at the where the old was it Jubilee Road there, right off of yeah, you look at that, the water there at the canal, and on a south wind and a high tide, it's almost at road level. There's no way to push water out. You can push it all you want. It's just nowhere for it to go. And that's not the only place. There are other places that you don't necessarily see that type of push, but it happens all over the city. And that, again, that creates a drainage nightmare for all of us.
All right, a few others, and we'll run through these if it's okay, and then I think Mr. Cooper has some questions he's going to answer. So, and then we'll go back to the slide about the new bridge. Will we get another much-needed boat launch like the one that was proposed years ago next to the Carib?
We want to obviously follow through. It is on the NERDA list, NIFWIT list, all types of lists for money, Department of Conservation to be built over by the Carib. But it's totally up to the state of Alabama whether that happens or not, because it's state property.
Would the city of Orange Beach entertain the idea of establishing a professional soccer club? I have no idea. Show of hands if you are a professional soccer player. I mean, there's got to be one. Somebody wrote it. So yeah. we will talk about soccer.
I don't know anything about soccer. Was a communist sport where I grew up, so I don't know anything about it.
We did just host the SEC Soccer Championship. It was a great success here. Texas A&M won, and there are 9 SEC schools going on to the national championship, so that's huge. And every game was televised live from Orange Beach, Alabama, so it was very, very important.
But I can tell you this. Even for those of us, again, not knowing much about soccer, I know from an athletic performance perspective, it is one of the best sports for our kids to start out in, probably far better than starting out in football or other sports, because it does builds ability, agility, speed, endurance, quickness. So we support soccer in every way we can, and the SEC is so appreciative of how we support soccer, bringing in the kids and the clubs to watch the matches. So like I said, even though I don't know much about it, I know what a value it is to our kids.
And I will say in a couple of weeks, we'll host the national championships for the NAIA smaller colleges, so that'll be right here on the same fields. Can we please consider to reduce the speed limit to the shopping center zones to 35? So that's a...
Jerry, did you write that?
I think Jerry texted it.
We've got mixed feelings on the speed limit there.
That would be a no.
You know, my favorite song is I Can't Drive 55. So it's hard for me to stomach 35, but there's others that think 35 is perfect. So I don't know. I guess we'd love to hear from all of y'all. But
I happen, matter of fact, we could do a poll.
Yeah.
I happen to believe that 35 is a safe. That area is so dense that 35 is safe, especially when you're going to be looking at the beautiful landscaping that would be available there. You're going to go through. You'll be relaxed. You're going to have not stress. So I'm not one that condones saving a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit and not have the landscaping that we would like. But I'm in a minority. But 35 to 45 is just not that big a deal. And
Do a poll, Jerry.
Yeah.
Do a poll.
Who all would support a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Perdido Beach Boulevard and have some palm trees and stuff like that in the median?
No,
Keep
you
going,
can't
Jerry,
have
keep
palm
going. Come on,
trees.
whip them up.
You cannot have palm trees. You
No,
can
no, no,
only
no,
have
no.
3-inch in
No,
diameter trees.
no. This is my poll. This is my poll. Everybody else.
Next, Mr. Johnson.
I'm saying landscaping that will be approved by AlDOT, 35 mile an hour, would be trees. It may not be palm, but it would be trees in the median.
Oh, sorry, Jer.
Okay.
Sorry.
About 25.
Everybody that wants 65.
He's not done. Ask the other question.
Wow.
I was ambushed on that one. I'm not changing my mind, but I will subside to what the popular vote is.
The problem, I told Jerry, I said, just go, you slow it down to 35. Can you guys imagine the number of blue lights we're going to have on Beach Road?
That's right.
No, we only give warning tickets. Only give warning tickets.
Ready to address the soccer issue? Did y'all want that question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Alex Koner. So one of the things the Sports Association met last night and wanted to address the soccer issue, not just soccer, but all sports as we go into a high school. There's going to be need for more support through all the sports as we progress, and so that's where the Sports Association will be heading. So as far as professional, I would imagine what she meant or he meant was a club with professional coaches for all sports, so we don't have to travel to Daphne, Fairhope, Perdido, Pensacola. You have more of a pipeline. More to come for that as the Sports Association starts to work with the City Council and the Recreation Association. So.
We have,
Before this meeting started officially, Alex, I don't know if you were here, but I threw it out there to the mayor and council about our meeting last night and told them moving forward, you and I were going to meet next week again with your, y'all, this is a new president of the Orange Beach Sports Association, Alex Clemmer.
thank you.
So anyways, yes, we had that discussion. I'm sorry you probably weren't in attendance, but.
So it won't just be soccer, but for everyone that is worried about their kids in sports, we'll be there.
Right.
Let me add to what you were asking. I have talked with several gentlemen that are extremely capable coaches, and they've been taking care of girls softball, and they also do some hitting coaching for baseball. I would love to see us have a cadre of coaches that are specific to every sport that could coach our coaches and give personal one-on-one, group, whatever it might be, especially speed training. So there are a lot of things that I think we can do. If we get a group like yours on board and the parents are on board, I think we can make something like that work.
Yeah, right now, the largest issue is court and field capacity. So with the addition of the high school and working with you guys and having a better relationship with the city, we should be able to figure that out.
We will.
Why was Holder given a sidewalk but Burkhart denied a sidewalk? I think that there are many city streets that they have issues with right-of-way and drainage, and so to maximize a sidewalk, we're still considering every city street we can, and we're going to try to continue to do that.
Burkhart, we did not have sufficient right-of-way width. We would have to acquire property from private property owners in order to fit a sidewalk in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any additional consideration for a new public beach access point? I don't know if there's any land.
I don't think, I think the prices now have gotten prohibitive on any kind of beachfront property now that condos are selling. We did look into a tract near the Hampton, and we talked with the owners and was willing to make an offer, but they asked for 3 times what we thought we might be willing to pay. So it didn't happen.
I'll summarize this one to all neighborhoods, but the question is about the surcharge for undergrounding electric utilities. So the city works with Baldwin EMC, and this past year we undergrounded Avenue C, Avenue D, and replaced the traffic lights. We undergrounded Martinique. We replaced the not traffic lights, the street lights. And so we're continually looking. The question specifically about Cotton Bayou and specifically if it's Garrett, there are problems where when you get into low areas where a rising tide causes problems, because when you underground, you put in a box. Those junction boxes can easily go underwater. We have that in many Bear Point neighborhood streets. So there are certain residential neighborhoods that will probably not be undergrounded because the risk is greater. Jubilee Point is some examples of your box being on some platform of going underwater than having your overhead knocked down by wind. So EMC gives us a lot of their recommendations. They tell us the problem areas that can be fixed, and we continue to work on that. The next phase of undergrounding on the beach will go from Loop Road to about near where Kaiser's office used to be. I think it's now Bellator, and it'll be on the north and south side of the road. We're continuing to knock that out to the west, and we've already covered that all the way to the state line to the east. Okay. Briefly discuss the $5 million shown for a civic center. I think that's just future planning that this building at full capacity accommodates up to 2,000 people. We need a building that really accommodates, 800 people. And so that's a challenge in the future as this building becomes less available because of bookings. So we're trying to plan ahead and be ready when that day comes. Community center at max capacity only holds 300 people. So think about the differences in our buildings. So a civic center would be somewhere in between.
Yeah, we're running into conflicts, this being a conference center with a hotel next door and all the local events that want to use it at the same time. At some point, we'll have to make the decision, do we want to just pull this back and this be our event center, our center, or do we want to give this over and be a full-blown conference center and build an event center somewhere? Now, the upside of that might possibly be this building would be worth far more than we paid for it and far more than that building would cost us to build for a community center. So it actually probably would be a net gain for us if we took that step. I don't know that we would. I would take a lot of discussion, but that's the potential problem we got coming is dual use. They're sort of conflicting with each other.
Just a couple more. Will the presentation be online? The answer is yes, and it'll actually be probably in the form of a video and possibly a PowerPoint in some way. That will also include, yes, all the transportation maps, so you'll be able to get that from a public meeting side. So, and we're going to back up and pull some of those up now. And then, of course, with the fiber, just someone's kind of doing their own poll, but I just want to encourage everybody to make sure if you are interested in fiber in your neighborhood, look up the CenturyLink Fiberhood site. The information's in your chair. And do get with the folks and make that reservation. It's very important. We have a 1-year commitment that we're working on this project, and we truly hope that we can get this in our neighborhoods. Remember, the website is orangebeachal.gov, or you can still go to cityoforangebeach.com, and it will still redirect you there. Okay. They do, and the last question that I was given was, will Director Cooper expand more on the new bridge? So we could go back to the new bridge slide, okay. I think.
I have one or two educational questions, and if y'all are going to focus in on ALDOT, if there were really no other questions for me or my staff, then I'm going to, after I answer a couple of these.
Oh, please, go right ahead. No, that's good.
Any chance for an IB program at Orange Beach High School, maybe with city funding help? Anything's possible. We have 2 IB programs in Baldwin County Schools, one in Daphne, one in Fairhope. Currently, those who apply and are accepting the IB program in this area go to Fairhope High School, their IB program. If you're in the city of Gulf Shores in their school system, someone asked, can you go to the IB program in Baldwin County Schools? Right now, the answer would be no. I'm not saying that some of this couldn't be looked at in waivers and other things, but right now, that wouldn't be the case. I mean, Gulf Shores City Schools could start their own IB program. The other thing is a virtual school. Well, every school system has to have a virtual school policy. So it would be up to Gulf Shores City Schools to write or either start establishing a virtual school. Generally, Baldwin County has paid for their virtual school with local funds, but now we're a cost center. We have probably close to 350 in our virtual school. You need 250 to be a cost center. So next year, it won't cost us. It'll come from the state. We'll get a principal, we'll get a counselor, we'll get the teacher units. So Baldwin County Schools have worked awful hard for that. So, that's just to answer those questions right there.
Mr. Cooper, you got any? You already answered yours? Are you good? Take it away.
Mr. Mayor, I believe my questions fall into two primary areas, and there are a few more specific questions that Mr. Calametti will address. Since we have the drawing of the bridge up, I'll start with the bridge. First of all, let me say that I have been supportive of the toll bridge and have worked with them cooperatively for over 6 years now. Let me tell you why we're building another bridge. We've spent, as most of you in this room know, well over $100 million to move traffic down the Baldwin Beach Express. Today, while we move a significant amount of traffic on the Baldwin Beach Express, we have not moved nearly as much traffic as we had hoped to. We believe that is because of the toll. People seem to react negatively to the toll. We have about 8,000 cars a day who drive all the way down the Baldwin Beach Express and turn right at County Road 4. Over 60% of the traffic that crosses the bridge on Highway 59, and for a little byplay on the commenters on AL.com this weekend, it's not I-59, it's Highway 59. But about 60% of that traffic crosses on 59 southbound and makes a left turn. As you can imagine, a high percentage of that traffic is coming to Orange Beach. And so what we concluded is that the toll either had to be lowered significantly. We were not able to satisfactorily negotiate that toll level with the bridge company, or we need to build another bridge that will facilitate traffic, do two things. One, improve access into Orange Beach, and two, allow for the development and the traffic access on the north side of the Intercoastal Waterway, which is very important to Gulf Shores. And so I could talk for 2 hours about the reasons for the bridge. We were not looking for a place to spend $30 million. We do not believe it will be wasted. We would spend far more on Highway 59 if we have to deal with the traffic that is over there and cannot successfully move traffic to the Baldwin Beach Express. We also believe the bridge will improve access into and out of Orange Beach as well as Gulf Shores. And we believe that bridge is coming into an area where development will continue, traffic will continue to grow, and so we believe the bridge is tremendously needed, and we believe it is justified. And that's why we're pursuing it. The second set of questions I have, I feel like I've been asked if I stop beating my wife. Do you think of the locals with all these insane traffic changes? Roundabouts, U-turns, crossover bike lanes, a roundabout on Canal sounds like a nightmare in a mostly residential area. Let me try to explain why we're doing what we're doing. The roundabout on Canal is not necessarily an ALDOT project, but the reason we reworked the beach road, the reasons are many. We couldn't handle the traffic that we had and that we knew was coming the way things were. We couldn't deal from a traffic standpoint with the same development issues that the mayor outlined for you that the city faces. We face those issues to a significant extent together. And so we moved to an alternative form of moving traffic. It is a form of moving traffic that has been tried and proven to work in many areas of the country. I had a related question about the safety aspects of that. We're not far enough into it to adequately measure that yet, but we do know that in states who have done this, we're relatively new into it, but in states who have done it, accidents in those corridors have decreased from 20 to 45%, depending on the location. We needed to control speed better. We needed to equalize access. We needed to protect the turns. Ma'am, the turn you referred to mostly, I believe, was that turn at Walmart where we had a U-turn and a left turn. And clearly, if people, yes, ma'am. And people who were in the left turn lane would block the U-turn, and as Mr. Calametti said, we've changed that now. I just drove that this afternoon, and if you're in the left turn lane, as I was today about 2:30, and a car's in the other left turn lane, you do have visibility in the front left turn lane. The back one, a gentleman called me and kept me on the phone for over an hour one afternoon to explain that to me. And I called Mr. Calametti and we looked at it and we did make a change. We are confronted with this question: how do we move the traffic in the space we have? Historically, the answer has been additional lanes. How would you add additional lanes to the beach road? What would we do to the property along the beach road if we did that? Those are some of the questions we confronted, and so we sought to find a middle ground. I would say to you that this corridor will not work as we've designed it until we're able to finish it. And in consultation with the mayor and his staff, we're doing that in 3 phases so as to not be in the midst of mainline construction during your busy season. And so I would say to you, please wait and see the entire corridor. I think it will make sense. We will continue to make changes. We met with the mayor and his staff this afternoon, and one of the things we talked about in that meeting was the need for a left turn exiting the Walmart. I came out of there this afternoon. I can understand that. I'm sure that the traffic engineers had a reason for not doing that, whether it was the potential for traffic buildup on the main road or traffic buildup blocking the out of the loop road. I'm not sure. We've agreed to go back and look at that, and if we can make that change, we will. But our goal is to move the traffic as safely and efficiently as we can within the lane structure that we have as far as the beach road. Build additional lanes on Canal Road, build additional crossing lanes for the intercoastal waterway to help the traffic flow. We answered a question that the mayor asked us this afternoon. If we get those things done, do we believe we can adequately move traffic on the island? We do. We believe if we can get the 5 lanes on Canal Road, if we can get adequate lanes across the intercoastal, we can get the Beach Road project finished, and we can clear the intersection at 161 so that traffic can free flow through it, which we can do, and we believe we know how to do that. We believe we can adequately handle traffic on the island. Mayor, I think that about concludes the questions that I've kept for myself.
Turn the lights on.
I've tried to give the hard ones to Mr. Calametti, so
You
I'll
did.
let him go next.
Can I add one thing to that? Is remember, in a 3-year period, we had 247 accidents in that stretch there from 161 to the west. And I think we were told that was the highest number of accidents per that length or that distance of road in the state of Alabama, with all things being equal. And unfortunately, so many of those were head-on or T-bones because of people making left turns across in front of each other. So I think over the next few years, we will be able to quantify if it made a difference safety-wise anyway. Whether it's convenient or not, that's a matter of perspective. But if 3 years from now we see we have 100 fewer accidents, then I think it was probably worth it. So we'll just have to look at that. But they've been wonderful about trying to fix and listen to us when we've identified things we continue to be problems. So, Vince?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add on to what the Director Cooper said and what you said. In addition to those accidents, there were 49 injuries. There were 4 fatalities. There were 8 crashes involving pedestrians with 6 injuries and 2 fatalities. So one of my questions is, what can be done to correct the traffic changes that were done on Perdita Beach Boulevard? I think we're willing to look at any and everything that is sent to us fully with the idea that safety and moving the traffic efficiently is our main goal. So we're willing to look at everything. A couple of quick questions. Could the signs on the road be lighted like the ones in Gulf Shores? At night and in rain, it can be difficult to find your signal sign number. Absolutely, that was a movement by the city, and we'll be glad to work with Orange Beach if they'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
When is the next construction going to start on Perdido Beach Boulevard? That's in mid-November. Can we work making the lights trigger lights and not time lights during certain events on the island? As we upgrade our traffic signals, we have communication with every signal. That communication also includes cameras, so that we can do, yes, we can do that. We can facilitate higher traffic during higher traffic periods with this communication. What happens to the traffic in the eastbound lanes on Canal Road when it gets to 161? So the priority movement will be 161, will be Canal Road to 161 to the south. It will be 2 lanes with a 1 or 2 left turn lanes, but we'll cut the traffic signals down from 4 phases, probably down to 2 or 3 phases. It'll make the intersection so much more efficient. That's all I had.
Okay. Yes, sir.
On Canal Road, south side, have y'all purchased the right-of-way east down on Canal Road up to 161?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to know. I knew that you had purchased some, but I didn't know whether you purchased all of it or not.
The right-of-way was purchased and designed many years ago. Yes. It is very, very tight. That's one of the issues we've been working around, is how to relocate these utilities within the current and the purchased right-of-way. But yes, sir.
And Mr. Cooper, I was one of the guys that got injured in the hospital on 161 and Canal Road on a wreck.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to comment that I think the biggest improvement on traffic at the Beach Road is that so many of the locals no longer use it. I very, very rarely go down that road, and I never do if I'm heading west. I'm heading east, because I can't make that turn onto 161. So I don't use it. I use Canal all the time. And the other thing I was going to say is that the trick with 59 and so many people turning left is that there are not a lot of access points to the Beach Road, so I tend to go and use that turn onto Canal when I am going to Foley.
Ma'am, I appreciate your comments. My comment on Highway 59 was not where the lefts were made so much as it was the fact that 60% of the traffic crossing the bridge turns left indicates that a great deal of traffic has flowed down Highway 59 that is coming somewhere east of Gulf Shores. That's all. That's the only point I was trying to make.
One thing, Mr. Cooper and Vince, I can add, I think you've done some traffic studies. We're getting a lot of access for Perdido Key folks heading to Perdido Key and such since the Baldwin Beach Express has opened all the way to I-65 or I-10. Would you not agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We agree.
We can see it on Friday afternoons quite a bit.
Well, I mean, it's 25 minutes quicker.
That's exactly
Come down
right.
the expressway, you know?
Instead of going down through I-110 and Warrenton and coming back through there are people that are traversing through our city, getting into Perdido Key to their condos that way. We witnessed that a lot over the last couple of years.
Has anyone else got a question before we? Yes, sir, Mr. Bill. Yes, sir. Come on.
With the school system going to be put down here where the old sewer plant was, are y'all going to have to relocate the street department, or is it going to stay there?
Now, we're going to relocate the street department.
Do you know where it's going to be?
We're looking actually north of the canal. Yep. Yes, sir,
Mr.
Bill.
Cooper, Mr. Calametti, I really appreciate you all being here. I have one simple question. Will AlDOT support Orange Beach effort to build the Wolf Bay Bridge?
Would you choose to clarify the term support?
Not deny.
I beg your pardon?
Not deny.
Actually, we have no control over that.
I'm not asking for your money. I'm just asking.
I'm saying we have no control over whether there's a bridge located there.
Okay, thank you.
That's not within our purview.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jamie Carswell. Thank you for your time. I know we're running late. Quick question about U-Turn Alley. I worked in civil engineering for quite a while, and we designed a lot of roads, did a lot of roundabouts, that type of thing around Metro Atlanta. I've seen the U-turn set up before, and I have seen it work. But one of the biggest concerns that I hear from people that I know, and one of the things that I see, is that typically roundabouts and the U-turn set up like we have here, those are set up in communities that aren't necessarily as transient as our community is. You know, spring break, our population explodes, then we're quiet again for a couple of weeks, and then we're slammed through September. The people that come down here for vacation, they don't understand this U-turn thing when they pull up to it. And a good example is a couple of days ago, I was coming east on the beach road, and I got to the 161 intersection, and someone got into the left lane, slammed on their brakes. There was a massive rear ender. I mean, I don't know what was going on in the area at the time, but there were at least 5 or 6, maybe 7 first responders there, as far as fire department, police department. And it's been my experience too that last year, snowbirds are constantly, you know, they come down here year after year, but they don't know how to negotiate these U-turns. So I'm rambling more than anything, but my question to you is, especially for Mr. Cooper, are we going to take a wait-and-see approach as to how this thing is going to work out? Because we're talking about, I know we're talking about traffic safety. 3 or 4 years down the road, we'll have numbers, Mr. Mayor. But my concern now is that traffic it may seem to be moving more because people that actually live here currently, you know, at this day and time, we have learned how to negotiate these. But people that don't come down here every single year for vacation, or people that don't live here, they don't understand how to negotiate these U-turns. Again, I've seen it work in communities where they have a large permanent population, but we have such a transient population that people just, they don't get it. They don't understand it. I've had people bombard my Facebook from Atlanta, friends from where we moved, asking me, what is the deal with all the U-turns? What's up with U-turn alley? And are they going to fix it? And are any lights going to be utilized to try to improve the traffic? So I just wanted to ask if you could address that, please.
I would agree with you that repetitiveness of traffic is an asset. I'd ask you, rather than ask me the question and leave, I'd ask you to wait a minute. Oh, okay. Excuse me. I'd ask you to consider the return factor of traffic to this area. While you are correct that much of the traffic is transient, much of that traffic is repetitive. And so, yes, we do believe there is a learning curve, and we believe that learning curve will be mastered on these roads. We believe that gets easier once we have the entire corridor consistent, and we're not confusing people from signal to signal. We understand that the interim period is kind of tough.
And I want to say I agree with you completely about the roundabouts. There were roundabouts proposed at a lot of different places, and we came to the conclusion, all you got to do is go to the wharf and watch people use those roundabouts. And you realize, no, we don't need roundabouts. So that's why the only place we're looking at considering a roundabout right now is on Canal down by the Art Center, because mostly that roundabout is only going to be a U-turn and a possible turn into the Art Center. But we agree with you on that part of it 100%. But something else we have to take into consideration. At the Hampton Inn there, you're already seeing the Orange Beach, the condo from Brett Robinson. There's going to be 4 or 5 more condos right there, big ones. And then right down from that is possibility of 2 more. That was a huge impetus about starting this U-turn extravaganza because we could not have all of that, all of those cars from that high-density stretch going every which way. So once you start directing them, and hope I'm acting like I'm an engineer, but I play one on TV. But the point being is, once you start that in motion there, and maybe you'll know what I'm talking about, you sort of have to continue it. But we have a mess possibly coming if we didn't do something there, because that's going to be a high-density area. That's going to be a high-density area.
Thank you. And I do understand about
Yeah.
the volume in that area, and I understand you're obliged to develop.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that coin, with 5,000 new condos comes the potential of 500,000 new visitors, that come down from the rental program. So then I just, thank you. Thank you. So not to be difficult,
You're not being difficult. This is good
the proof is in the
conversation.
pudding. I
Right.
have a difficult time understanding how, I just don't see that we're going to have this repetitive traffic that people have planned for. I mean, certainly, I came down here for years before we decided to move here. I had an infrastructure built here. We had family, friends before we decided to move from Atlanta. But a lot of people don't have that. We have a lot of one-time visitors, and that's going to continue over the years as we develop and as we redevelop. We'll always have new people coming here. So I'm certainly hopeful and optimistic that it will work out. I know that what we had wasn't working as well as we thought it was because of the volume. But I just feel like there's got to be a better way to push that traffic through these roundabouts, through these U-turns, rather than just having people slamming on the brakes because they didn't know what to do. That was all. But thank you for addressing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. One number you might be interested in, the CVB tells us that 70+% of all of our visitors are repeat visitors. So we are going to get a little bit of a carryover effect, I believe that. And we're refining it. I challenge you, please, drive it. You're an engineer. You've seen it. If you see something that you would recommend, I think these guys are open to anything. They've been great to listen. They don't let an ego get in the way. So if you see a way to make it better, we are open. But I have learned when it comes to drainage, when it comes to development or roadways, it's always the lesser of evils. And
I was just going to piggyback on kind of what Jamie said too, just because as I've been sitting here in the audience, I've heard these comments, and I've had a couple of thoughts also. So I'm just going to kind of jump over 3 different things real quickly because I know everybody's ready to go home. I am. I've been here since 4:30. So when you said, sir, Mr. Cooper, about considering the possibility of a left turn lane outside Walmart. I would think, especially considering what Tony just said, that everybody should take into consideration if there are going to be that many more condos built in that area, that maybe a left turn lane is not the best thing because there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that crosses over from the Fairfield Inn, from Mariner Lakes, from the other subdivision that's back behind Winn-Dixie. And so, I do think about pedestrians, and I think about safety probably more than I should, but I lost a brother to vehicular homicide, so it's kind of a big deal to me. And then going back to another point that Jerry was making, I'm in complete agreement with him because I lost my brother to vehicular homicide, and it was an issue of speeding. I like to speed too. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I've been pulled over a few times on Beach Road for going too fast in January and February because it's clear and, you let your foot accelerate and you forget what's going on. But maybe just considering in those shopping districts for the safety and the whole of everybody, when those new condos get in there and when we're busy in the summer, I don't really think it's possible to go 45 miles per hour through there without putting someone at risk. And I'm in complete agreement with Jerry, and I would just ask everybody before you raise your hand and say, no, please don't lower the speed limit, think about the positives. We also, in my opinion, have a problem with not educating the people that come down here on vacation that Jamie is speaking of. Maybe we could ask the property management companies and the CVB and the visitor center to put an educational page in their books about how to navigate this traffic, about what you're supposed to do at the U-turn. You know, a little education never hurt anyone, and I think that if we could educate people better before they get here on how to utilize these resources, it might be beneficial. And then to also ask the people who are responsible, and I don't know who those people are, but the people who are responsible for bringing in the J1 students, I think is what it's called, the kids from foreign countries that come here on a 90-day visa and work. Many of them work at McDonald's and other places, Walmart and wherever. They all ride bicycles. They need that education more than anybody, especially because of the bicycle lane that's going down the middle of Beach Road there where the two lanes turn right onto 161. If somebody hits those kids, I think we're all going to feel, you know, really bad. If a car is going down through there and not looking for the biker, and some of these kids get hurt or injured seriously, you know, that's just not a good thing. That's not something that our city wants. I know I don't want it, and I don't think anybody wants it. So maybe just to consider some education would be my request. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you, Tab.
I like what you've done.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, at the risk of losing myself, I'm going to try to explain pass interference, so to speak.
Okay.
Let me see if I can explain to you what some of the problems are with that signal at the Walmart. In any connected traffic system, and that is a connected corridor and will be eventually, there has to be a rhythm from signal to signal. The traffic engineers call it moving the platoon. You have so much through time that you can allow each movement. Mr. Calametti commented earlier on reducing the number of cycles in a signal. In most corridors, signal cycle time runs from 180, like this, from 180 to 210 seconds. Total cycle for all movements. The pedestrian crossing at that intersection becomes the equivalent of another cycle. To allow a left turn out will add a cycle to that signal. That left turn, the reason the traffic engineers did what they did, could be, I don't know, we'll look into it, but it could be that adding the time for the protected left turn out of that intersection throws off the through timing on the corridor movement and does not allow enough green time for the through traffic on the Beach Road. Now, you very quickly say, well, you could allow a left out and maybe not a left in. Then the merchants all complain that you've stopped traffic from reaching my business. Just a brief explanation of some of the conflicting points that we have to deal with on this corridor. And it has to do with trying to balance all the constituencies, the through traffic, the tourist, the local traffic, the business, the pedestrian, whether the pedestrian will cross at the right place. You lay out crosswalks and you make plans and they cross in the middle of the block and traffic stops. The Good Samaritan syndrome in traffic. None of us wants to run over someone. So, ma'am, that's just one of the issues that we'll have in looking at that left turn. But we have agreed to go back and look at it, and if we can fit it in, we will certainly try to do so. Because I've heard about it from a number of people who can't go back to the east without making a U-turn. I think I could make the case that in the overall priorities of the corridor, that may not be an unreasonable imposition, but I know many of you think it is. We will look at it and we will do the best we can.
Thank you, Mr. Luddy.
Mayor, I've been coming down here since the 1980s. I've lived here for the past 14 years. And in those 14 years, especially the last 3 years, when you get out to drive, you've got to drive expecting somebody to pull out in front of you, somebody to run in front of you. You got to drive defensively. You got to keep your eyes on what's going on. I've had people run out in front of me down across the bridge there where the road's off. You'd be coming down through there 50, 45, 50 mile an hour, they run right out in front of you. 3 of them went out in front of me, one of them stayed and didn't run in front of the car. So it's, and down here where you got the U-turn, the guy was in the left-hand lane and I was in the right lane to make my U-turn. And if it had been another coat of paint on my car, it would have hit. So, you just got to drive defensively, drive with smart, expecting somebody to do something stupid.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up. Anyone else? Like I said, I'll stay here all night, so whatever y'all want to do. Y'all leave anytime you want.
Mayor,
I guess that's everything
I
then.
want to say one thing before, just for those that do have Facebook. So we've been live streaming tonight, so you can watch this immediately, I believe, on Facebook when you get home, and then we will have it on the website at the news site.
Why would anybody watch it when they get home?
To see Buddy.
God. What you got, Alan?
Mayor, you always wonder what's coming, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to thank all of you. I've interacted with all of you at some time or another. Y'all have done a great job, and I'm going to ask everybody, give them applause. They've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all for coming, for persevering. We appreciate it very much. If anybody's got a question, I'm up here, so come grab me.